The business folks handle the business.
Of course.
And I have no say over different elements that could or could not be in the show.
Okay.
And so I'll just tell you right now, when you see me come on the air here, we're going to hit the Octo Box. We've got 8 games in the early window, taking you around all the different cities. And then when we get into it, ladies and gentlemen, it's been more than 250 days since the first full NFL Sunday, but we are back. And 7 hours of Red Zone football starts now.
Wow. Well said.
I realize that might be a slight change to some of you, but that's what the catchphrase will be going forward.
We all understand what the NFL is, okay? We all understand what the NFL is. As soon as we heard it's in 50 million homes and everybody's watching it, we knew immediately that there's going to be commercials dropped in there.
On September 3rd, 2025, during an interview with the Pat McAfee Show, NFL Red Zone analyst Scott Hanson announced that NFL Red Zone, something that had been a staple of the NFL experience for over the past decade, would no longer be commercial-free, delivering a major blow to one of the NFL's most trusted and popular entities in Red Zone. And now, instead of the tagline of the show being 7 hours of commercial-free football, it would now be 7 hours of non-stop football. And the sad reality is that this has been in the works for a long time. I know that many people want to blame ESPN for this. However, the fact of the matter is, this is much larger than one company. This is much larger than the sway that ESPN would or would not have over the NFL. I think this is a trend that we are going to see not only in just sports, but streaming in general over the next couple of years. And it is exactly why things like the NFL Red Zone and other properties that you as fans may love are never going to be the same again. And in this video, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about why this move was made, the background, ESPN, what they have to do with this, what they don't have to do with this, all that and much more coming up right here in this video. I'm Omer Q, so be sure to smash that thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Let's dive in. In early August 2025, ESPN and NFL struck a landmark deal, a non-binding agreement wherein ESPN would acquire the NFL Network, the linear rights to NFL Red Zone, and the NFL's fantasy football businesses. In exchange for this deal, the NFL would receive a 10% equity in stake in ESPN. Now, while initially this was seen as a game-changing deal, the structure of the deal is a little bit more toned down than I think people realize. ESPN will still own and operate both linear and digital rights to NFL Network, integrating it into its forthcoming direct-to-consumer streaming service, while also maintaining distribution via pay TV. ESPN also gains broad distribution rights for NFL Red Zone to continue distributing it on cable and satellite providers. However, NFL will retain ownership and operational control over Red Zone, meaning that ESPN would not have as big of a say in what exactly happens to the entity moving forward outside of distribution. Additionally, the NFL's existing properties such as NFL Films, NFL.com, and NFL Plus will be retained by the league and excluded from this deal. Now, I know I just threw a lot at you, but I wanted to kind of get out the big details of this deal that are some of the big things that people are calling out in relation to this news of NFL Red Zone having ads. And the reality is, if you look at this deal, it is something that is more out of desperation for ESPN to stay up to date with the times, given the fact that for years they were tied down to linear cable television, and that was the entity that they had invested so much money into. And we are now living in a completely different era in just watching sports or watching entertainment in general. Right now, we are in an era where streaming is dominating, where streamers are trying to acquire as much value for their audience, as much content for their audience as humanly possible. And that is the only way that they can continue to have these large shares of consumers, have these large shares of subscribers that will continue to pay into these products. And that is the business side of it. And for ESPN, they understood that they needed to have this big app. They needed to have content for this large app that they were going to launch in August of 2025. And that is why you saw this deal with the NFL come to fruition. That is why you saw that billion-dollar deal with WWE to ensure that their premium live events go over to ESPN, because at the end of the day, you cannot have a streaming service strictly binded with the name ESPN and the linear channels. You need additional content. You need that additional value. And for ESPN, that's why they needed to do this. This is a move for them to try and attempt to adapt to a very changing landscape. Yet for the NFL, this was them essentially getting major distribution rights to programming they were already producing. This was them saying that you can do whatever you want as far as the NFL Network goes, and they are still going to maintain some sort of say over what happens there, at least over the next couple of years, you would think. But for NFL RedZone, it's a different game. For NFL RedZone, it is not a case of ESPN coming in and saying that we are going to have ads on this moving forward. They don't have a say in that in the way that people think. And it has been pointed out by several people online, including the likes of Scott Van Pelt, that this is nothing but a fantasy and that people are kind of crying and yelling into the ether. And I tend to agree with this line of thinking. At the end of the day, for the NFL, they made this move to have ads on NFL RedZone to kind of change up one of the calling cards of this program in order to maximize value. And that is something that has been seen across the entire streaming sports industry as a whole. Companies understand that advertisers right now are willing to pay more than they have ever done so for live premium content. And NFL RedZone, because it only comes on 16 weeks out of the year, because it only has a shelf life of a couple of months per year, but it brings in so many eyeballs for advertisers, they want to make sure that the people who are locked in on NFL RedZone are seeing whatever product that they want to sell. And because they're paying top dollar for that, NFL kind of just did what everyone else is doing. If you look across UFC, if you look across WWE, if you look across the NBA, advertising is everywhere, from jerseys to the ring mats to the courts. You can't walk around a sporting event in 2025 in America and not see advertising. Advertisers are everywhere. And this is less of a case of ESPN putting the hammer down on NFL RedZone and more of a case of the NFL saying, we could just make a shitload more of money by just having advertising and commercials for NFL RedZone. And for me personally, I think that it is the wrong move and you're sending the wrong message to your fan base, because the beauty of something like NFL RedZone was, number one, you're already paying for it, so it kind of defeats the purpose of having something you pay for be led in with commercials. But that's besides the point. That's just kind of the way things are moving right now. But on top of it, the thing that really, really makes me personally mad is you're changing the way that we watch the game for the worse. You're essentially taking away an element of the game in the way RedZone was presented, commercial free, free flowing, seeing every second of NFL action and having the commentary, having Scott Hanson, having everything that entails. And now you're taking an element of it away and making it less valuable for the viewers. I don't care about whatever Burger King commercial is going to come on. I don't give a crap about what Dell or IBM or any of these other entities are trying to sell me stuff during the game. What I care about is the game itself. That's why you're paying an absorbent amount of money for NFL Red Zone in the first place. Otherwise, what's the value in it? Why are you going to pay for it? You're not. So for me, I think despite this being a move that was just inevitable for the NFL to make, I don't think that this is the right move for fans. And I think you're going to see a lot of people be mad. And for the NFL, it's very convenient because people are going to be mad at ESPN because in their minds, ESPN is the one who made his decision. And I'm not saying ESPN wouldn't have made this decision to begin with. Like, if they had the power to, I think they probably would. But the fact of the matter is, NFL still owns the rights to do what they want and operate the Red Zone entity with. So they are the ones that you need to have your anger towards. And at the end of the day, I don't think that's going to change anything, but we can't stop trying. So tell the NFL how pissed you are. Tell them that you want 7 hours of commercial-free football. I doubt any of that is going to change this, but the most we can do is try. Until next time, I'm Omer Q for Real Take Sports. Be happy, be healthy, and as always, keep it real.